On the edge of a big green meadow, beneath the shade of a majestic oak tree, thrived a bustling colony of ants. Each morning, countless ants emerged, forming long, disciplined lines that stretched across the grass. They diligently carried various treasures, tiny crumbs, nutritious seeds, and delicate leaves, all destined for their underground home. Among these industrious workers was a particularly small ant named Timo, noticeably smaller than his peers. Because of his diminutive size, the other ants often assigned him the lightest and least challenging tasks. "Just focus on the smallest crumbs, Timo," they would often advise him, their voices kind but firm. Yet, despite his small stature and simple duties, Timo harbored an extraordinarily grand dream deep within his tiny heart. One sunny afternoon, while venturing further than usual into the sprawling meadow, Timo stumbled upon an incredible sight. Near a forgotten picnic blanket, a colossal piece of cookie lay abandoned on the ground, glistening in the sunlight. It was an enormous crumb, far larger and more magnificent than anything Timo had ever encountered in his entire life. "Wow," Timo breathed, his antennae twitching with awe and disbelief at the sheer size of the discovery. He imagined the impact. "If I can manage to bring this giant cookie back to our colony, there will be enough food for everyone for many days." Filled with an overwhelming surge of excitement and purpose, Timo scurried back to his fellow ants, eager to share his news. "I found an absolutely giant cookie crumb," he announced, his voice buzzing with enthusiasm. The other ants paused their work, exchanging skeptical glances and murmurs among themselves. "That crumb sounds far too massive for any single ant to move," one seasoned ant remarked, shaking his head slowly. "Indeed, Timo, you are simply too small to even attempt to carry something of that magnitude," another added with a sigh. "Just forget about it," a third ant interjected dismissively. "It's an impossible task, a waste of time." But Timo, fueled by his big dream, refused to let their doubts extinguish his burning determination. "I will at least make an honest attempt," he declared bravely, his tiny legs already turning back towards the cookie. With renewed resolve, Timo marched purposefully back to the location of the enormous cookie crumb. He carefully positioned himself, gripping the rough edge of the cookie with all his might, and began to pull. He pulled with all his strength. Pull, 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 his tiny muscles straining with effort. Despite his valiant struggle, the massive cookie remained stubbornly unmoving, rooted to the spot. With a sudden loss of footing, Timo slipped on a loose pebble and tumbled backward, rolling helplessly into the soft grass. "Oof," he grunted, landing with a soft thud, a wave of disappointment washing over him. For a fleeting moment, a shadow of discouragement fell upon Timo, making him question his ambitious endeavor. "Perhaps the others were right all along," he pondered, a flicker of doubt entering his mind. But then, a vivid image of his grand dream flashed in his mind, rekindling his spirit and resolve. "I will try again, but this time I'll use a different approach," he announced to himself, shaking off the doubt. Instead of pulling, Timo strategically positioned himself behind the cookie, preparing to push with all his might. He braced his tiny legs and began to push, 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 grunting with concentrated effort. To his utter astonishment and delight, the colossal cookie shifted, moving forward just a minuscule amount. "Hey!" It actually moved! Timo cheered loudly, his voice echoing with triumphant joy and renewed hope. However, the journey back to the distant ant colony was still incredibly long and fraught with numerous obstacles. Along the arduous path, Timo had to skillfully maneuver the cookie over jagged pebbles and around sturdy sticks. He pushed relentlessly, forcing the massive crumb through dense, towering blades of grass that seemed like a forest. There were moments when the heavy cookie became stubbornly wedged, refusing to budge an inch. And there were times when Timo's tiny body ached with exhaustion, making him feel utterly spent. But each time the thought of giving up crept into his mind, he would whisper to himself, "Just one more push." Slowly, painstakingly, and with incredible persistence, the cookie inched closer and closer to the ant colony's entrance. After what seemed like an eternity, a few passing ants finally noticed Timo's extraordinary, solitary struggle. "Look over there!" one ant exclaimed, pointing an antenna in disbelief at the moving cookie. "It's Timo! And he's actually moving that enormous cookie all by himself!" Another ant cried out in amazement. The sight of Timo's unwavering determination filled the other ants with a profound sense of awe and admiration. Without hesitation, they immediately scurried over, eager to lend their strength and assist their courageous comrade. Soon, a growing number of ants joined the effort, forming a powerful team around the giant cookie. Together, they pushed and pulled in unison, their combined strength finally propelling the cookie all the way back to the colony. A resounding cheer erupted from the entire colony as the massive food source was triumphantly brought home. "That is truly the largest piece of food we have ever managed to bring back to our nest," the ants declared proudly. The wise leader ant, her eyes gleaming with pride, offered Timo a warm and approving smile. "Timo, you have taught all of us an incredibly important lesson today," she said, her voice filled with respect. Timo, his heart swelling with happiness and a sense of accomplishment, beamed brightly. He had not only achieved his dream, but had also learned a powerful and enduring lesson about perseverance. He understood that no matter how small or insignificant one might seem, unwavering determination and diligent hard work can help achieve even the biggest dreams. From that memorable day forward, whenever the ants encountered a daunting or seemingly impossible task, they would remember Timo. They recalled the tiny ant who, against all odds and skepticism, never once considered giving up on his goal. Timo's story became a legend, a constant source of inspiration for every ant in the bustling colony. His courage reminded them that even the smallest among them possessed the power to make a monumental difference. And so, the spirit of the tiny ant with the giant dream continued to motivate them, push them, and inspire them to achieve greatness.